What is going on, everyone? This is Zach from Clutch Crew Sports, back with another podcast episode. And here in today's episode, we are going to be talking all things Brooklyn Nets. Their two superstars want trades out, that being Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. So I've got the guys with me, and we're going to discuss all this NBA-related news. Now let me introduce you to the rest of the crew.
Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Eric, the ranting co-host of Clutch Crew Sports here, and as Zach alluded to, the players we're going to be talking about got a lot of my favorite players to talk about here, so very excited about that.
And what's up, guys? It's Connor, the co-host with the most, and I would really like if somehow, some way, the Hornets could find a way to trade for one of these guys, just because our offseason has pretty much gone from bad to worse with the, recent Miles Bridges news. So, Hornets are in a bad way right now. So it'd be nice if we could somehow pull out some miracle and trade for Kevin Durant and go on and win the NBA championship.
Yeah, that would be, KD would get a lot of credit, I think, if he, joined the Hornets and brought him a championship. That would be, that'd be huge, a huge deal.
That'd be legacy altering for Kevin Durant.
Yeah, that should be Michael Jordan should be on the phone and using that as like a recruiting tool,
Yeah, like, hey, you said you wanted to win a title without a super team. Like, well, here we are.
Yeah, he says here. One thing.
I was saying we're also going to be saving a lot of money by not having to pay Miles Bridges, so come to town.
They've got cap room.
Yeah. No.
By the way, Brooklyn, do you want Gordon Hayward too? Like, get rid of. Then we can really pay Kevin Durant.
Got to make the salaries match. I can't just trade all draft picks. You got to give them some salary. But yeah. So this is going to be the main discussion for this episode. So if you don't like Kevin Durant or Kyrie, this honestly isn't the episode for you. But if you're a fan of them
well, Eric was like, I'm out.
I just gave Eric the invitation.
This isn't the episode for me.
But if you're fans of them or you just, want to see the news going on around them, like, you don't even have to be fans. You can just be interested in what happens to them. But it's been a while since we've had all three of us on the podcast. I feel like we've all been doing these solo videos and for the channel, and then now we're just finally having like a reunion here. But we'll start with Kevin at first. So I've got a possible got a possible 8 teams here that personally, at least I've seen. I wouldn't even call it credible, but at least, speculation that there are possibilities that he could be traded to. So I've got 4 from the East, 4 from the West, the 76ers, Raptors, Suns, Celtics, Heat, Warriors, Lakers, and Clippers. So, and then always too, there's the possibility it's, a team outside of these 8 is actually where KD goes. There's a possibility he stays
Charlotte.
With
the Nets. I can't believe he didn't throw a Hornets logo on this slide here. Right? Connor is probably just throwing all kinds of shame your way here. And where's the Thunder at, too? What's up with that?
Yeah.
A KD reunion with the Thunder, anyone? Like,
they got the draft picks,
I mean, James Harden's a free agent too. OKC could go out and sign him.
Oh God, Connor. Okay, I already said this wasn't the episode for me. You're making it worse.
So yeah, and also too, I said there, it's a possibility he stays with the Nets as well. It's not, a 100% for sure thing when he's got 4 years on his contract. But I'll start with Eric first, I guess. Just tell me maybe a situation that you think happens. Do you think he stays with the Nets? Do you think he gets traded to one of these 8 teams? If you had to pick one, what team would it be, and what do you think the trade would be like? So I don't know if you've already thought about this or not, but
I haven't, but
that inspires confidence.
Well, I mean, I will say this. I mean, I think for sure he's gonna get traded eventually. I mean, I don't, if he doesn't want to play for them, and you know, if there's no way to repair the relationship or convince him that they can win a championship here, then the Nets need to trade him, and because they can get a ton for him. So, but they also have the leverage with him having 4 years left on his deal. I mean, they definitely don't have to be in any hurry. It's not like, oh, they need to trade him tomorrow or anything like that. Just let all these teams that are interested like come to you, and just wait until you get an offer you really like, and then make them give you even more, and then and then deal them when you're ready. They don't have to do this right this second. I mean, if I'm the Nets organization, I'm, first of all, like, I heard this whole, I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard all this stuff about Kevin Durant saying that he wants to go to either Miami or Phoenix. That those are the two teams on the top of his wish list. And first of all, like, if I'm the Nets organization, I'm disregarding that completely. I'm not gonna just give in and trade him to one of these two teams to where then I have no leverage. Like, I'm opening the floor up to anybody, and I'm getting the best possible offer. I would want to listen to teams that have younger talent available to give away. I'm also wanting to listen to a team that has a bunch of first round picks that they would be able to give me. I want a combination of both of those things if I'm the Nets and I'm trading Kevin Durant. So, like, teams like, say, like the Lakers, for example, I mean, they don't have hardly any young talent on their team. They don't have any
retirement home over there.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have any first round draft picks at all, I don't believe. Or if they do, it's like 2029 or something, like way down the road. When, like, if I'm the Nets GM, I probably won't even be the Nets GM anymore by the time that pick comes to fruition. So, like, I'm not looking at a situation like that. Now, where I would be a little more interested would be a team like maybe like Toronto or Phoenix, like some of these teams that have younger guys. Mainly with Phoenix, I'm looking at DeAndre Ayton. If we could do like a sign and trade involving him, maybe, or like with the Raptors with like Scott, they've got like Scotty Barnes, a young talent, and or even like the 76ers with some of their younger guys. Um, I would want a combination of young players and a bunch of first round draft picks, kind of like what OKC did when they traded Paul George. Like, they got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a nice young piece to build around, and like 4 first round picks. Like, it would have to be like that, and probably even more. So, but as for like a specific team he might go to, I have no idea, man. This whole thing is a crapshoot.
Yeah, it really is. I guess I'll let Connor, if you have a more definitive answer, you can go ahead, or if you kind of agree with what Eric said.
I mean, I mostly agree with what Eric said. I mean, yeah, I would definitely want to get young talent along with a lot of picks. But if I'm the Nets, in my mind, another priority I would probably add to that list is, obviously this might not happen, because you never know how the trade market is. But one of my priorities would be just to trade him out of the conference. I mean, like, we see this a lot in the NFL, with like quarterbacks that want out, or just like, big time players in general that want out. Like, you look at Devontae Adams, like, he wanted out of Green Bay, so they went and traded him to the Raiders. So, like, different conference. So, it's likely, even if they see him, it's not going to be until, it would have to be the Super Bowl, unless you just kind of caught the Raiders on that 4-year cycle where they play each other. So I know, obviously, every team plays every team in the NBA, but still, I mean, if they trade him to the Suns, like, they're only going to play the Suns twice. And, again, if they were to play them after that, it would be in the NBA championship. So I think that would be a priority for me, to trade him out of the conference, which in my mind would be, if I had to pick a team that I think would be the most likely destination for him, would be the Phoenix Suns. Because like Eric mentioned, they can work a sign and trade with DeAndre Ayton. They can give up a couple picks. They could probably give up another young talent, say like a Cam Johnson or something, to accommodate the Nets. And then, like I said, that gets him out of the conference. KD gets his wish of going to another like possible championship contender. He can pair up with Devin Booker, and maybe they can lure someone else there. Who knows? Like, it would be a good decision for him. I just don't see, like, really kind of any way that he would go back to the Warriors. I don't think the Warriors really want him. It's like, you know, one of the reasons why in a lot of people's minds, like why they like kind of traded for him was when they had lost to LeBron in that one year. But like they've won again without him. Like they definitely don't need him, and they don't need his cancer and his drama in the locker room. So I don't see any way he goes back to them. But if I had to pick an East team that I'd say probably most likely, I'd probably say the Raptors. Because like Eric said, you know, it's mainly just a lot of young talent that they can float. I know, you know, he can go to the Raptors and he can pair with Siakam, and you know, there's been talks that Fred VanVleet is going to get a max contract from the Raptors, so that could be a really good big three right there for the Raptors, and really altering for them. So that's kind of my opinion on it. I think the Suns and the Raptors, if I had to pick one from each conference, would be most likely, but the Suns would be the most likely in my mind, given that they're in the West.
All right, so I got a few thoughts on this. Number one, I think for this instance, I'm not limiting negotiations to the West. I kind of want to open them up to the entire possibility that he could be
I
traded.
wasn't saying that. I wasn't saying limit it to them. I would just say that'd be a priority for me. Like if I can trade him to a West team, then that'd be more ideal. But like, yeah, I'm not going to say no to an East team if they give me a good deal.
That's what I'm personally, I'm just thinking, I'm just taking the best offer regardless of the team it is, East or West. And then secondly, I want to get some picks and some young players, but I think even more important than that for the Nets, because they're in a unique situation, is I want to get back an all-star caliber player, or at least, you know, someone really good, because the Nets can't tank. The Nets, their draft picks go to the Houston Rockets through like the next 3 or 4 years. So the Nets, they have no incentive to tank because they're not getting their first round pick. So if they finish at the bottom of the league because they've got all these young guys, then you know then Houston's just benefiting from that. So I still think they're going to want to, you know, get a good enough player that they can contend for a playoff spot and make the playoffs and be competitive. So there's two on this list, I think, that makes sense for both sides as possible trades and would work with the cap, because the problem with the Suns is just the cap space. The Suns really don't have good cap space to trade for him, in my opinion. So, and plus two, I don't really. DeAndre Ayton is the best player, is not a great. I don't know. If I'm the Nets, I'd want to get a player better than Ayton. And I think with the Raptors is really intriguing because they've got all their first round picks, and I'm not sure if Scotty Barnes, he might be someone the Raptors would want to hold on to, but you could trade for OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, Van Vliet, and some picks. Like that's a pretty good, you're getting a pretty good return there. Or you could go, I think best possible player out of these teams that you could get would be like Jaylen Brown on the Celtics. You know, get Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and some draft picks. That could be, you know, because Jaylen Brown's pretty young too. So you're getting a young all-star player. And, you know, KD is up there in age. So it is one of these things where the other team has to be looking at it, and they can't necessarily give away everybody on their team for KD because, you know, he doesn't have that, you know, he doesn't have 10 more years in him, I think. So the Celtics and the Raptors, and it's tough for the Nets too because they're, you know, rivals of them, but those are two situations I think that a trade could happen between. And the Warriors also would be interesting. I don't think Kevin Durant would want to go to the Warriors, and I'm not sure. He's got to have a no trade clause. I mean, pretty much anybody of status in the NBA has a no trade clause. So, you know, if they work this out and the Nets say Warriors and KD says no, I'd rather stay with the Nets, then obviously that would happen. But Jordan Poole, some first round picks, you know, Wiseman, Kuminga, you know, that's another young haul. And it does actually seem like the Warriors are I don't know if they're in on him, but they've called the Nets about him. So it definitely seems like, I don't know how aggressive they're going to be with the trade talks, but they've at least, inquired about it, which is interesting, I think. So let's go next to his partner in crime with the Nets, who opted into his contract, and we all thought he was staying in Brooklyn, but turns out now he's not going to be staying with Durant leaving. So where does Irving go? The Lakers and Knicks seem to be what a lot of people think. Like the Lakers, a trade with Russell Westbrook. But Eric, do you think Irving gets traded before Durant? Do you think he gets traded after Durant? Is this a package deal? Like the team's going to get both of them? What do you think about the Irving situation? Obviously, he's going to get less in return, but yeah, what do you think about Kyrie being traded?
Yeah, he's going to get less in return than KD. I definitely agree with that. I will say, first of all, I see a lot of Lakers fans out there that think that they're going to get him, and I really don't see how that's possible. Like, unless they can, by some miracle, convince the Nets management to take Russell Westbrook from them, they don't have the cap space to bring Kyrie in. So I don't see how that's possible. And also, Kyrie and LeBron, like, they separated on bad terms when Kyrie left Cleveland, and supposedly they're good now, but I just don't see the Lakers being a good fit at all for Kyrie. The Knicks, I could definitely see as more of a possibility, but then they also just signed Jalen Brunson to a big deal, and I don't know if they're going to have the cap room to bring in Kyrie. So since he opted into that big deal, so I don't know, man. Like, really, with both of these guys, it's just kind of a crap show on what's gonna happen with them, like where they're gonna go. It's almost like KD waited too late to tell the Nets that he wanted out, because then with all these other teams having free agent plans and all that, they've already drafted the young guys they want to draft. They've spent the money they're going to spend in free agency, and now a lot of these teams don't have money left to make these kind of trades, and the only way they're going to be able to do that is if the Nets are willing to take bad players, which I highly doubt the Nets are going to be willing to do that. So I don't know, man. I mean, with Kyrie, if I had to take a guess, I would say the Knicks, but I mean, I don't know, man. This whole thing is just crazy.
Okay, here's a fun question for Connor, and then I'll let him talk about Kyrie. But I've heard people talk about this. Oh, who plays more games next year, Kyrie or Ben Simmons?
Oh my god.
I mean, I don't know. In some way, I think I'm gonna still have to go with Kyrie Irving. Apparently, I just saw this article while I'm like, on my phone looking about Kyrie, because I had looked into Kevin Durant, but I hadn't really looked into Kyrie as much. And like, there's this headline from the New York Post saying Ben Simmons deactivates Instagram account amid Kevin Durant Kyrie Irving trade rumors. So, like, I don't know. I have a feeling like they're both going to get traded, and then Ben Simmons is just going to claim he has back soreness or some BS or whatever.
He's going to request a trade.
I don't know who's him. Like, that's the thing with him, is that, like, the Nets traded for him from the Sixers. It's kind of like a mutual, like, okay, like, we can offload James Harden and the Sixers can offload Ben Simmons. Like, that was kind of like a mutual kind of swapping of just bad players there. And, but then Simmons didn't come in and do anything. So, like, at this point, especially since Simmons, he's still on a max contract. So, like, how is anyone going to want to pay him that kind of money? But I do think, Eric was talking about that, if the Nets wouldn't trade with the Lakers unless they could convince them to take on Russell Westbrook, like, I could see the Nets still, like, maybe being okay with that, given that Westbrook is on an expiring contract this season. Like, it's not like where, and also for the Lakers with Kyrie, again, like, he's also on an expiring contract. It's not like for these teams with KD, where like, you know, they're still going to have 4 years of a contract they have to pay him. Same with Simmons. They have to pay him like 3 years of a contract, you know, unless they trade him again. But given that Westbrook's on an expiring deal, you know, if you can manage to get something out of the Lakers that pleases you, because like you said, your return on Kyrie is not going to be as good as it will be for Durant, then, you know, you can get a deal that you like. That way you get rid of Kyrie, you know, you have Westbrook, but you can let him walk the next, and then at least you get, you know, something in return for him, like some picks and maybe you know, some kind of young player, like if they could try and trade for like Taylor Horton Tucker, or like, you know, Malik Monk or something like that. Just some of the younger players that are actually on that team.
Yeah, well,
because
Malik Monk is gone now. He's on the Kings now.
Oh, that's right. I was looking at that. Like, I don't know what I was looking at, but like, yeah, if you could trade for like Taylor Horton Tucker, or who was the other guy I was looking at that the Lakers actually have like one like young player on their team still. Like if they could find a way just to trade for like somebody else younger on that team, even though it's a retirement house. But yeah, I don't know. It could just
like Lonnie
crazy,
Walker,
like,
who they just brought in. Maybe I don't know.
I don't think you
I
can
don't know.
trade.
Like,
You can't. A player that you sign in free agency, you can't trade them till like 90 days after they're.
Oh yeah, that's true. So I guess
Yeah,
the only way I'm giving Kyrie to the Lakers in exchange for Russell Westbrook is if they also take Ben Simmons. That's the only way.
I don't think the Lakers are going to do that.
Well,
No.
then they're not getting Kyrie. I mean,
that's the thing is
just
like,
saying,
I mean, that's the problem for the Nets, though. I will say with them is that like so far, like not really any other teams have shown interest in Kyrie. Like I know there's been some rumors that the Mavericks and the Sixers had like maybe been looking to trade for Kyrie, but I know like Mavericks came out and kind of said like, oh, that's not true. We're not really trying to go after Kyrie. So it's like, you know, at least for the Nets with Kevin Durant, like he's going to have a lot of suitors. You know, there's going to be a lot of teams that want Kevin Durant. It's going to be really tough for them to try and find a match for Kyrie Irving because, you know, he's maybe got like one or two teams that are interested in him, and the Lakers are really only interested in him in my mind to see if they can just offload Russell Westbrook. Like they're not interested in him for Kyrie; they're interested in offloading Russell Westbrook. So, yeah, I'm not sure what it's going to look like for Kyrie.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got a scary feeling that he actually goes to the Lakers for the Russell Westbrook thing, and Westbrook was so bad with the Lakers that it's going to be good for them to get rid of him, and then, you know, bringing Kyrie in, if he, depending on how much he actually plays next year, like at least, you know, assuming they make the playoffs and then playoff start, you know, that could be scary. Honestly, I don't feel good about, as much as like we joke about Kyrie and stuff. It's crazy some of the games he has and how good he is.
Well, I think he's actually like a decent player. I mean, I know we like to, you know, talk crap about him, but I think he's still a good player. He's just a massive drama queen, like,
yeah,
who, you know, obviously had the problem with the whole, he didn't want to get vaccinated, so he couldn't play in, you know, over half of the Nets games because of the whole vaccine restrictions and stuff, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. But Kyrie is a good player, so, you know, the Lakers would be getting a good piece in him. I mean, he's certainly a lot better than Russell Westbrook. So, you know, I definitely see where you're coming from saying that he could be a good piece for them.
Yeah. Eric, what do you think about my question on the who plays more games, Kyrie or Ben Simmons?
I mean, especially, I don't know, man. Supposedly Ben Simmons had back surgery or something, so I mean, there's no telling how long it's going to take him to recover from that, and I don't know, man. I just think Ben Simmons is just soft mentally. I'm not only am I impressed with his inability to make a jump shot, like I'm just unimpressed with his like mental attitude and work ethic. He just doesn't seem to have it. Like Kyrie might be crazy, but he can at least contribute to a team and play games. And I'm assuming probably by now that the whole, like, you know, vaccine restrictions and stuff will probably be off. So like, I mean, Kyrie, you know, he gets injured from time to time, but I'll say Kyrie plays more games than Ben Simmons, and probably won't even be close, really.
All right, and then
Bum Simmons getting paid $35 million to sit on the bench.
I'll end the show on this last note. If anybody has seen the viral video of Brian Windhorse this week, you'll know what I'm referencing here. But Eric, what is going on in Utah?
I don't know. I mean, why would they trade Royce O'Neal for a first-round pick? Why are they doing that?
Salary dump to bring in Kevin Durant? No,
that's not it.
Oh my gosh, you guys have to see that video.
You could tell like everyone else was so confused. They were like, yeah.
He had them running in circles for 2 minutes. Like they were just, oh man, that video, I watched that like 3 or 4 times. I laughed each time I saw that. He seems to be, and then the funny thing is that was before Gobert got traded, which we didn't talk about, but that was,
yeah, it's like,
so that I guess
you're having a thing about that, and then all of a sudden you turn around and oh wow, Rudy Gobert's gone too. Why would they do that?
What's going on in Utah?
There's
aliens. Are the Jazz going into a rebuild here? Like,
all right, guys. Thanks for listening and watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this speculation video. I know we don't normally do stuff like this. We like to report on actual news or games, that have happened, but this is just the number one story going on in the basketball world right now. So we thought we had to discuss it and give our opinions on where we think KD goes. And honestly, none of us really know. So that's the video.
Not even the Nets know.
Yeah, not even the Nets.
So speaking of KD, yeah. I was debating if I was going to rant or not, but I mean,
okay,
am I the only person that's going to be happy when him and LeBron are out of the league and just all of this like whole super team nonsense? I mean, am I? Do y'all feel the same with me on this? Like, I'm just curious.
I mean, I'll be happy when him, LeBron, Westbrook, Harden, and that whole group of players right there. I mean, because I think it's one of those things that we'll definitely not miss them for their attitudes. Like, we'll be happy when they're gone for that. I do think, at least in the case of KD and LeBron, not so much Westbrook and Harden, but like at least for KD and LeBron, we'll probably miss them as like players, because they are obviously really good players. So be like, oh, they kind of missing that, like kind of when Kobe retired, or like when Jordan retired. Obviously they were a lot more liked. Kobe less so than Jordan, but like it was, you kind of miss their gameplay and their style of game. It's like, wow, we're never going to see another player like that again. But yeah, definitely going to be happy once all this super team forming nonsense drama is out of the league for sure.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this because of their like talent and stuff. Like I respect all of their abilities as players, but I don't know, man. I just, the fact that I guess like I already didn't like when Kevin Durant left the Thunder and went to the Warriors, right? Okay, that was his that was his first strike, and then he goes to leave the Warriors. He's like, I want to build my own team. I'm like, okay, that's great, man. Like, you do that. Like, so my respect, I was like, okay, it's starting to go up a little bit. He's like, I want to win without a super team. Immediately gets Kyrie and James Harden like within the same season, and then isn't able to win a championship or even get to a conference final with those guys. Now he's giving up, and not only does he want to be traded, he wants to go to the Phoenix Suns. Him wanting to
or like the Miami Heat.
Him bringing in the super team with the Nets was strike 2. Like I had gained respect for him, and then it was immediately gone. And then now strike 3 is he wants out of Brooklyn with 4 years left on his deal. And not only does he want out, he wants to go to a team that has been to the finals within the last 2 seasons and a conference final, and another team that's been to the finals within the last 2 seasons and a conference final. Like, are you like, this is such a joke, dude. Like, how anybody respects Kevin Durant anymore is just beyond me. And the whole reason why I became an Oklahoma City Thunder fan in the first place was because I was a fan of Kevin Durant. So it's not like I've been a hater of him his whole career or anything like that. I used to love him, and I was even going to respect him if he chose to leave OKC, if he went and joined another team to try to build a championship contender. But when he went to the Warriors, that was over. And then just with like LeBron James, I mean, I know he wasn't the topic in this episode, but I mean, I saw this
he
like
started the super team thing.
He started this whole crap. And then not only that, I saw this interview where he did where they were like, "Hey LeBron, if you could team up with any player, who would you team up with?" Do you want to take a guess who he said?
I already
Kevin
know.
Durant.
Steph Curry.
That's right, Steph Curry. I do
Steph
remember
Curry.
that.
Not some young player like not like, oh, go back to Cleveland and team up with Evan Mobley or
Colin
go to
Sexton
Toronto
or something.
or go to Toronto and team up with Scotty Barnes or some young, some team with a bunch of young guys on it. No, I want to team up with Steph Curry, now a 4-time champion and a Finals MVP and a unanimous MVP. Like I want to team up with him.
And my second choice behind that would be Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then my third choice Nikola Jokic. Like
guaranteed, that's probably the order of his list. If not, it's really close. I mean, it's just not respectable. And I mean, I saw this other thing on Twitter that like this guy was like, I think it might have been Nick Wright. I don't remember. So like, if it's not him, like don't quote me. But it was some check mark on ESPN, one of those dudes, and he was like, well, at least LeBron honored all of his contracts, and at least LeBron never demanded a trade, and he's won a championship with every team he's been on. Like, okay, but this is to be fair, this is the first time Kevin Durant has asked for a trade. Okay, it's not like he's done this everywhere he's been. Like, he's honored all of his other contracts with his team until this one. So it's not like that's something he's done on a regular basis. And then they say that as if, oh, it's just some good thing. Like, wow, he honored his contract. Wow, that's amazing. That most players do that. Okay,
that's like 99% of players.
Yeah, it's not like he's the only one that's done that, or he's a small handful of people that have done that. Like most players honor their contracts. And then to act like it's such a good thing when the first thing he does as soon as he goes to a new team is, like get rid of all the young talent, bring in the veterans, and max out the salary cap, and then go for a championship. And then after 4 or 5 seasons, when you realize it's not going to work anymore, leave that team high and dry with no draft picks, all these bad contracts, and then go to another team and do it again, as if that makes it any better. And then KD was like, "Oh yeah, like I guess I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to go form my own super teams." And it's freaking annoying, and it's such a breath of fresh air when you see teams like, the Celtics and the Bucks and, the Heat and a lot of these other teams and like what OKC is trying to do now, where it's like they're drafting all these guys, they're bringing in these young talent, and they're developing their teams, like what the Warriors originally did before they brought in KD when they got the championships with him. But like what they did when they won their first championship, like, for the most part, you're drafting these players and just maybe complimenting with little, with 1 or 2 free agents here and there. But you build your team from scratch and you build a legacy that way. Like that is so refreshing. That's why like I'm a fan of more guys like Giannis and Tatum and Jokic and Devin Booker, like guys that are playing with the same team that drafted them, Damian Lillard, like players like that are sticking with their teams, and not these guys like LeBron and KD and Kawhi and James Harden and all these people like, oh, I got to bounce around. Oh, we're not winning with this team, so I want to go over here and be with this team. I want to team up with this guy. Like it's stupid, and I hate it. So I haven't had a rant for me in a while. I as soon as I knew we were going to talk about KD, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it through the episode without ranting.
It's going to set Eric off in this episode.
No, you needed a rant, man. I feel like
it had been a while, and and I was so I did get people before, like when I would have like multiple episodes in a row ranting. They're like, oh, you're just doing that to cause drama, or like you're just scripting it for entertainment, or you're just doing things like that.
No,
like,
this is genuine.
Or you love ranting. No, I don't. I don't like doing this. Like that's just what I'm known for more so. But I love when I can just get through an episode in peace and not have to go off on a tangent. But I just, man, I had a feeling when we were talking about KD that this was going to happen, and I almost made it, but I didn't quite get to the finish line.
Well, I mean, I will say for you two is like I'm hoping that obviously nothing's ever going to change LeBron and KD now, like they're so established. But I think the first like real sign of hope that I had originally, to your point that you were making, was when Giannis decided to stay with the Bucks. Like,
yes,
there all this talk about, oh, he's going to go join the Mavericks, he's going to go join the Heat, like he's going to go blah 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 blah. But then he like agreed to stay with the Bucks on a max deal, and it's like, okay, that was in my mind the first like, okay, finally a nice little breath. Like MVP player is staying with the same team, despite the fact that they haven't won anything yet. He's still staying, and he's going to make it work. And he did make it work.
And it was a small market team too. Like it wasn't like he was already in like LA or New York or something.
Right.
Like, it was a small market team too.
Yeah, he's in Milwaukee. So I'm hoping that was like, and it seems to be ringing true so far, like you said, with guys like Tatum and Booker and Lillard staying with their teams. Like I was hoping that was like the first real catalyst to like set the trend for all the younger players to, just stick with your team. It seems like it's working so far. So hopefully that continues.
Yeah, well, pessimistically, I'll say it's working because they get the supermax from their drafted team, so they get 50 million more than they can, and then 2 years later they're going to ask for a trade when it doesn't work. But we'll see. That's just my negative.
Look, Dame has stuck around so far. Like Jokic has stuck around so far. Giannis has stuck around. So like Embiid has stayed with the 76ers. Like there's a lot of guys that even when they sign these huge contracts, they don't immediately the next year be like, no, okay, I want out now. Like I don't know, because I think teams are starting to see that, like, and players are starting to see more so even than like teams management and stuff, that when these teams are able to keep you around and when they give time for these young guys to develop, like you can build a winning team, with what you already have, as opposed to like, oh, I just got to go get as many all-stars as I can on my team. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that it's a sign going forward. I would love for the whole super team thing to die down. I don't blame players for wanting to. Obviously you have to have multiple good players on your team to win. Like no player can truly do it by themselves. But when you're like, oh, there's Steph Curry over there, let me go team up with him, or oh, there's Anthony Davis, let me go team up with him, or let me get Kyrie back, or like let me go pair up with this superstar. Like it's old, it's over. Like I hate it. I've always hated it, but I'm hoping that we're in a sign of changing times for the better. I think it's better for the league overall too, because all those years when it was like Cavs Warriors, like LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love versus Steph, KD, and Clay and Draymond, like you knew who was going to the finals every year with all these stacked, with these two stacked teams like this every year. Like it's so much healthier and more refreshing for the league when every year, like when the playoffs start, you don't truly know like who's going to be in the finals and who's going to win. I mean, like we all last season all got our, like none of us like got the like exact teams that were going to be in the finals, right? And
or even the Western and Eastern Conference Finals, we got that wrong too.
Yeah, I mean, like, because like I know I had Boston and Phoenix, and so like I had Boston right, but I didn't get that right. And then I know like y'all had like, I think like one of y'all had the Heat and one of you had the Bucks. So like we all had different picks like getting in, and that it's so refreshing when you can watch the playoffs and not know who's going to win, so especially when all of your teams are bad like ours were, and none of our teams made the final 8 playoff spots. So like as a neutral fan going into that, it was nice just to watch good basketball. Like whereas like 2016 and like all those years, like, well, why am I even bothering watching the Magic and Celtics play in the first round when I know the Cavs are going to be the team to win the conference, So it's nice. So sorry, Zach, I know I made that episode go on like 15 minutes longer, but
all good, man. We will sign out for real now. So thanks for Eric with the rant at the end. I know he doesn't like to do it, but it's fun for me to just sit back, just mute my microphone, just eat some popcorn and nod along. So
hopefully y'all got now that I've got the rant out of the way and I've been able to take a couple of deep breaths, hopefully it was at least entertaining for y'all that listen to it. And if you disagree with me and like super teams, too bad. I don't care.
But yeah, that'll wrap this episode up. And until next time, guys, remember, be clutch.
Bye.
Peace.